Hey guys, let's go ahead and buckle in. All right. Today, so please be quiet so they don't have to roast you and then have me roasting you online. All right, girls. So today, I want to point out we're in Unit 2, Day 4. As a reminder, we are closer and closer to yet another test. So we have parent-teacher conferences next 2 days, and then we have 3 class periods, and on day 8, we have a test. So you will need to know the Gospels fairly well. I'll tell you exactly what we're going to do. We're going to spend 2 days watching sections of a movie. We're going to watch extended scenes. All right, we are, according to my official documents, not watching the whole movie.
Why?
Well, because there's inappropriate stuff, so we can't watch the whole movie. But we can watch scenes, and then just not watch the scenes with the inappropriate things. But we're gonna watch most of a movie. It's gonna take us 2 days. You will take notes during the movie. You'll have a note packet you have to complete, and those will be the only notes you get on the essay section of the test on the 3rd day after the movie. That 3rd day after we watch it, you'll have a test where you have to compare our book's use of the Bible material to the movie's use of the Bible material. How do they differ? How are they similar? Which one do you prefer as a way of understanding the Bible? Why? Things like that. It'll be an opinion paper, but it will be a did you pay attention? Did you notice references? I'm going to ask for common references between the two, major differences, things like that. So the test mostly is just paying attention to a movie and then writing about it. It's a really good movie. We'll watch that in a few days. We'll still have the multiple choice portion as well. All right, but that aside, today our objective is to continue learning about Jesus' final week. So Jesus' final week, or Passion Week. Passion Week. All right. Now, we are in Mark 13. Actually, I'll put it somewhere else. We're in Mark 12 and 13.
Sorry.
I didn't have you guys read Mark 13, but we're going to read it today. We're in Luke 21, 22, and 22, and Matthew 22 and 23. All right. These are our common things. If you're not tracking, when I'm asking you guys to do those outlines, one of the things I'm asking is, based on Mark 12 and 13, find an interesting passage, and then the similar passage will be in Mark 21 or Luke 21 or 22, and Matthew 22 or 23. You're going to give me that comparative stuff based on how do they treat it differently, right? How's it different in those Gospels? That's our literary context stuff. But I'm going to explain a little bit of that in a moment, but mostly I'm going to focus on the background. So it's Passion Week, the last week of Jesus' life when he's about to get crucified. And I'm going to make this statement not because I want that Jesus died, but if we understand the context well, one of the things we're going to see is that it might have been justified and reasonable that Jesus was killed. All right? Not from it's good, but from historically speaking, there's some reasons, right? Remember, he started with the triumphal entry. What was he doing in the triumphal entry? Not just announcing the king, but he's doing what? He begins by showing who he is and what?
Mocking the Romans.
Showing who he is. And, he's marking the Romans and protesting those in power. Protesting those in power. He walks in with a mockery and a protest. And then he goes, what's the thing he does right after the triumphal entry? What's his next action to do? He goes and disrupts business. All right? He disrupts... I'm going to say money changers tables, money changers, or business. Now, you guys might not know this, but if you get in the way of people's money, and you would start angrily calling power corrupt and failed, what are they going to do to you? they're gonna retaliate, right? And if they're in charge, they're gonna usually try to make an example of you. So this is what we're gonna see, that Jesus kind of spends his last week riling up the authorities. They're trying to figure out how can we get rid of him, because they're putting the Pharisees and the Sadducees, they're putting these people in danger, at least according to their estimation. Right? He's repeatedly speaking against both the Roman power and the business and financial interests of the wealthy Jews. So we have some kind of things where it's like, oh, Jesus is not just being peaceful and speaking niceness. He's disrupting things. He's doing it on purpose. He's acting disruptively. He's overthrowing the table. So as soon as he disrupts the money changers, here's the next thing he does is apocalyptic teachings. All right, apocalypticism. Or apocalyptic preachings. All right, so we're going to see Jesus as an apocalypticist. Jesus as apocalypticist. All right, the first person that can tell me what an apocalypticist is, it's somewhere in your notes or in your vocab. The first person that can tell me, I will give a sticker to. First person that can tell me what an apocalypse, just shout it out. You don't need to raise your hand, shout out. Someone, yeah, what is it?
Focus on the end times.
Yeah, someone preaching on the end of times. All right, just not yell. Oh, the sticker box is back there. You can grab one later, or you can grab one now. I don't care. So, Jesus starts preaching about the end times using these particular motifs, but apocalyptic preaching has a few things we need to know about it. All right, if you got
What does that say use?
Jesus as apocalypticist. So, apocalyptic preachings, we need to know a few things. Inherently, they are mythological. Mythological, meaning they use hyperbole, and good versus evil. All right, if you don't know what hyperbole this is, hyperbole is a great vocab word that hopefully your English teachers have taught you, but if you don't know it, it's okay. It is using extremes to make points. If I speak at extremes, if I say everybody does this, right? Okay, not everybody does this. It's hyperbole. So Jesus starts doing this and saying, this is what's going to happen. This is the inherent thing. This is one of the things about apocalyptic teaching. We're going to see this when we get to the book of Revelation. This teaching is meant to use the extremes of things to make a point. And it's, yes, talking about the end of times. And Jesus is going to say the end of times. But what we need to understand, and we can see this in our reading today. It is apparent in Mark. And it absolutely happens in Matthew and Luke as well. That when they're talking about apocalypse, it is the preacher's near future, it is Mark's present, and I'm going to go way up here. It is Matthew and Luke's recent history, and it is our ancient past. All right, so let's trace this. The preacher's near future. For Jesus, it's about to happen. Jesus is preaching this probably 33 AD. It's probably the date. Probably 33 AD is when he's preaching. Mark is writing this around 60 to 67 AD, somewhere in that range. What he's most likely talking about, and this would be a great note to put in a good historic background kind of thing. Most likely he's talking about the Jewish-Roman War. Right? He's talking about the destruction of the temple in 70 AD. He's talking about something that for Mark was just about to happen or was currently happening was the Jewish-Roman War. Does anybody remember who fought in the Jewish-Roman War? The Jews and the Romans. Yeah, easy peasy, right? The Jews and the Romans. Mark is probably writing with this in mind. He literally says, reader, beware, pay attention, right? Because he wants you to notice something. Because it's relevant for them. But when we get to Matthew and Luke, when you read those in chapters 22 of Luke and 23 of Matthew, I believe it is, somewhere in that range, but in these particular sections that I've given here, when you read the same thing, pay careful attention to notice they read like it's happened a while ago. Right? Probably 20 to 30 years from them writing, the apocalypse had happened, it seems to be. They thought maybe it'll come again, but they are post-apocalypse writing. The apocalypse, the end of times, yes, is in the distant future, sure. But also, for the authors, had happened, or was currently happening. Or, if, in the case of Jesus, was just about to, right? The apocalypse has already been. There's been multiple apocalypses throughout history. When we look at this type of writing, it's wrong to think of it as predicting 2,000 years in the future, 3,000 years. It's predicting the very near future for them. Or in other words, for us, it is our ancient past, right? The apocalypse that's being spoken of here is ancient for us. It's 2,000 years ago nearly. So we can understand some things about how we apply to it, but not all of these things. All right, the last thing that I want to give for cultural background stuff is that Jesus is one of many messiahs. Jesus, one of many, well, I'm going to say one of many apocalypticists. This is pretty normal, right? These apocalypticists are everywhere. He's one of many apocalypticists. You see these guys all over the place. This is a good background to know that these guys are pretty common. What they're not, though, they're not always claiming to be the Messiah, and they're not disrupting the actual temple. They're not doing what he does. He takes it to an extreme. He takes a normal thing. He says, I'm going to also disrupt business, and I'm going to speak against power. And then, one of many potential messiahs. One of many, I'm just going to say one of many messiahs. Now, we know as Christians, we believe that he is the Messiah. I believe this, I'll affirm this. We'll talk about this later. But he's one of many. There's a lot of these guys seem to be popping up. My favorite example of this is we have the Maccabees, that it was believed they maybe had been the Messiah. We also have this guy named Simon Bar Kokhba, that probably by the time of Matthew or Luke, it might have been writing. This guy, Simon Bar Kokhba, absolutely cool guy. But he was a problem as well. He's a false Messiah as well. So we have that Jesus might have been just one of many, but he's doing something different than they are. Right? So this is just kind of a common thing, is that people going, who is this? Could this be him? Could this be him? Which is what we're seeing in our book, like slowly, right? Is that, are you this person? Who is this person? So we're going to see this. Now, this is not to say Jesus is just another schmuck, right? But there's a lot of the assumption of what this person's supposed to be. We're going to build this out further this week. So I'm going to read now Mark chapter 12 and 13, and then we're going to go right into our outline time. So open your Bibles to Mark chapter 12, please.